Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you'll meet the two driving forces behind Teleios Financial. Their incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I can't think of a more crowded market in North Texas than financial services. I don't know if there are more financial services firms or Starbucks. I'll leave you to be the judge on that one. But there's one on every street corner, and so it really takes some courageous people and people of faith to stand out in a very crowded market. And that describes my next two guests, Guy Charles and Taylor Manning. They're with Teleios Financial. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. All right, why don't we start with you, Taylor? What does the name mean?
So the name, it's Greek for to see through completion. And I like the idea of to see through completion because so many people think that it's you do some planning and you get to a certain point and you're done with it and you can just leave it alone. But life changes, things change, taxes change, your priorities change, your goals change. And so we want to make sure that we're there for our clients all the way through that.
Yes, and I know you're men of faith, and you actually met each other through church. Is that right?
That's correct, through a home group.
Yeah. And when did friendship turn into, we need to become business partners?
Yeah, that's summer of 2019, spring of 2019.
Yeah. 2019.
Yeah.
Talk about how your faith shapes the way you approach your business and approach your clients. Do you want to take that, Guy?
Yeah, definitely. Our core values are actually built on Micah 6:8, and that is to do what is right, love people, and work humbly. Firm believers that you can take any relationship, good or bad, and run it through that lens, and it will come out the same. You'll get the same result. There's a lot of people that can do what is right. Loving people, that doesn't always mean being a doormat. Sometimes that means tough love, asking the hard questions. And that humble aspect seems to be just fleeting this day and age. A lot more people feel like they have to tell people that they're humble. We believe that if you do the first two right, that humility aspect comes along with it.
That's beautiful. We're going to pull up your website because you have been very successful and you carved out a niche for yourself in Salina, which I think is really cool because when I was at Channel 4 covering Salina, it was just a small little town. It's gotten pretty big.
It's growing rapidly.
Yeah.
It's a great place. A lot of new people are moving from all over the country there. So it's great. Salina and Prosper, huge growth.
I want you both to share your favorite client success story. Do you want to start, Guy?
Favorite client success story? I would say that has to be, we were taking a family just through basic financial planning, and the aspect of life insurance had come up. The client, she was very adamant about having life insurance for her and her family, but life kept busy, or kept being busy for her, and kept putting it off. And finally, we just called her one day. I was like, hey, let's get you into underwriting. Let's see what we can do. Got her into underwriting. Didn't hear from her for a few weeks. Ran into her, and she came to me with tears in her eyes going, you saved my life. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Underwriters hadn't said anything to me. And in that, found out that she was on a medication that she'd been taking, and there was something like 1,000% chance that there would be a side effect. After she had the medical exam, a day later, the underwriters called her, or the medical examiner called her and said, get to the ER. She gets there and finds out she's in a stage of kidney failure. Because of this medicine, she showed no symptoms whatsoever. So asking the hard questions, leading the way that, we saved a life. And we give all that credit to God. Like, it was just being in the right place at the right time and trying to be good stewards of the opportunity in front of us.
Absolutely. Taylor, same question.
So I would say one of the most impactful stories that I have, client success story, would be one of my clients that I was introduced to, and this was close to 20 years at this point. I met him. He had just been laid off from his job. He was about 45 years old, had a wife and 2 kids at home, and he was scared. Like, how do I pick up these pieces? How do I continue on? So we met with him, started doing some planning, put some things in place, and then became a long-term relationship. And so this relationship, he retired about 3 years ago, and retired very comfortably, coming from really nothing and having nothing in place to retiring very comfortably, being able to enjoy his grandkids now, enjoy his kids, his wife, be able to travel and go to Hawaii a couple times a year. It's amazing to watch that impact and what happens over those years of just making deliberate decisions about how he views his money and how he saves.
Sure. I know, like you, believe that if you do the right thing every single time, you don't just get the client business, you get their son's business and daughter's business,
Absolutely.
and neighbor's business. We've got some video from our library of just the financial services industry, and not everybody brings the same heart that you guys bring to a client. So when you're sitting down with a client for the first time, what does the onboarding process look like? What kinds of questions are you asking them? Guy?
I would say the first place we start is, as you said, coming from an industry where a lot of times people are fearful of being sold. Mm-hmm. We walk into the meeting with the mindset of how do we impact this life? And the first way you do that is creating a space where this prospect, yes, our goal is to make them a client, but even more so to make that client a friend. When you have a friend, when you're working with a friend, and we explain that, our goal is for you to be our friends because you're more than likely to pick up the phone and ask a friend for help than, if you feel like a client and you're picking the phone, we always get that, I'm sorry for bothering you. You're not bothering us. You're a friend of ours. How can we help you?
I also imagine that you almost become therapists because you're dealing with their
100%.
their entire nest egg.
Yeah.
We become marriage therapists a lot of times too. So
why don't you talk about that, Taylor? Just I'm going to call it your bedside manner, because if you have to break the news to a couple in their 60s, hey, you can't afford to retire for another few years. What's that like?
Yeah, and I can think back over my career, and there's been very few times, I'm fortunate, very few times that I have not had to have that conversation. Because if we catch it early enough, then we can really address the issues that they have. But one thing that we hear a lot, and it's the feedback we hear from our clients, is that we're not talking down to them. We're really just rolling up our sleeves, trying to figure out, here's where you're at, here's where you want to be, how do we get there? And so creating more solutions behind that. But I feel like, and I think this is also God's provision. Like, I can count on one hand how many times I've said, hey, now's not the right time. We've been able to help find solutions so that they can retire when they want to, or when they're forced to.
And you both have the heart of a teacher. I was on your website earlier. We're going to pull up the video tips page of the website. People can spend hours on your website just going through some of the educational videos that are out there. It seems like a lot of your job is really educating people.
100%.
much so.
Yeah.
You're in a day and age where there's information overload.
Yes. And it strikes me that you're dealing with very successful people, but people can be very successful at, running flower shops, but be, not so good when it comes to managing their finances or their financial future.
100%. Yeah, one of the topics that we talk on, especially in our first meeting with someone, is, do you have a junk drawer in your house?
Yeah, of course.
How many junk drawers do you have in your house?
I have a junk room.
I have 2 to 3 junk drawers, depending on where my daughters are putting things. So you go to a junk drawer to typically assess a problem or fix something. Sadly, this day and age, that's how most households, even a lot of business owners, handle their finance. their uncle sold them this, their buddy in college told them to get this, they inherited this, they have a 401k. They don't know how any of it works together. And so when an opportunity for an investment comes along, they're looking, okay, let's dump it out. What do I have? Or worst case scenario, and this happens in a way that we acquire clients a lot, is a spouse dies. And then you have the other spouse trying to figure out what's in this financial junk drawer. So we come along and go, hey, we're going to dump this out and let's organize it so you know how it works. And we're not going to set it and forget it. We're going to constantly check in so you know what options you have on your finances.
Sure. We've only got a couple minutes left, so I want to give you both a chance to give kind of final thoughts. Why don't we start with you, Taylor? For the person who's watching this for the first time saying, wow, I think I just found my firm, what does the process look like? What happens next?
I mean, the process, we always do a free initial consultation. I think it's important when you're looking at financial advisors, I think it's important that you interview them and they interview you. You got to make sure that this relationship will actually work, that the views, that personality-wise, the perspective, the philosophy behind planning is in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish. And so there's a ton of great advisors out there, and it's like a personal doctor, finding the right doctor. Same thing on the financial advisor side.
Okay, we'll give you the final word.
Just to piggyback off of him, a lot of times when people are looking for a financial advisor or maybe already have one, we actually have a 12-question template that we send to people and go, hey, these are questions you should be asking your financial advisor, or if you're kicking the tires and shopping around, these are great questions to have. If they cannot answer these questions, probably don't want to work with them.
This is a great segment. I could talk to you guys all day long. And thank you for doing the Lord's work. I think it's amazing. We're going to end with their website, which is TeliosFinancial.com. Guy and Taylor, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.